be
they might have
that'd be
some
great.
running around at times. Which I like. What's your sixth grader's name?
Allie. Yeah, Samara's a good little athlete.
She is.
Yeah.
She plays goalie for.
She's a good basketball player too.
Couldn't get to work, could you?
Her dad and I know each other going.
All right,
back
no problem.
probably
Hold on a second.
15 or 20 years.
Right.
All right, we got you on speakerphone, Commissioner.
Okay.
Hi, Ray.
Hello, Ray.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
What is the name of that jingle? What is that, Connery?
Yeah, take my money.
You know. The Housing Authority meeting for May 28th, call to order. Roll call.
Henry Champion,
Present.
Bill Powell,
Present.
Matty Koval,
Commissioner Koval is running late a little bit. She said she will be here though.
Ray Cruz,
Present.
Dave Richard,
Here.
Scott Horace.
Here.
Minutes of the last meeting. Approval of minutes.
Do we have a motion for the approval?
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Henry Champion,
Yeah.
Bill Powell.
Yes.
Ray Cruz,
Yes.
Dave Richard,
Yes.
Scott Horace.
Yes.
Any public comments?
We don't have any comments on agenda items.
Review the financial reports and list of bills. Next.
The Housing Authority, obviously, April is the first month of our fiscal year, so it's a relatively poor indicator, obviously, of how we've been performing. But for the month of April, we did have a $104,000 net profit. So it's a good start to the fiscal year. In our public housing program, we had a $142,000 profit. In our, obviously before operating items, overhead items, and then in our Section 8 program, we had a $33,000 net profit before overhead items. That overhead item, the central office costs, were about $69,000. So you subtract those out of the two to come to the 104. I will say that the $104,000 is a bit of an anomaly. We do get at the beginning of every fiscal year roughly $100,000 in capital funds that are for the operations of the agency. That's a one-time event. So if we're really talking about the actual operations, we had a $4,000 net profit. Just to be fair, we don't want to really take credit for a month where we got kind of an influx of cash. But other than that, we did have a relatively normal month. We are continuing to kind of build on that momentum we had at the end of last year, where we are posting regular profits, especially in our Section 8 program, where normally we start the year at a loss, and we've been able to get it to a point now where we're beginning the year with a profit, which is always a very, very good start for the year. A couple things to be aware of going forward, though. HUD has already made clear there will be cuts to the Section 8 funding. Probably we'll see that in either June or July. So you won't see that come out in reports for a while, but we're expecting it over the next month or two. We're prepared for that. We have reserves. We're well heeled to handle that kind of a cutback. What HUD is essentially doing is creating reserves on their end versus on the Housing Authority end. They want to have more control basically over the reserves, so that's the reason for the cutbacks. It's nothing that we've done. Every agency is going to experience the same level of cuts.
Wasn't it last year there was some money that they wanted to take some of our reserves? Did they do that?
They did not. They did not. But this is a result of the fact that they didn't. We still have the reserves, so they feel that, and all the agencies again are doing. They're just basically repurposing the reserves. There still are reserves, but we don't get to keep them. HUD gets to keep them. So it's an accounting game basically.
There's this one line item where in utilities they were way higher than
Yes.
budgeted.
The gas line for March, as we all know, we had a pretty brutal winter. March was another abnormally cold month. In that month, we had two things happen at the same time that kind of caused us a bit of a problem. One, the cost of the utility, the natural gas supply costs went up. We fix about 50% of our rate. We don't fix the other 50%. So that was part of the jump. The other part of the jump was just simply that there wasn't a day, I believe, in the month of March that was above 40 degrees, 45 degrees. So we have the demand plus the increase in cost that really caused that. I looked at our bill for the following month in April, and it's probably less than half of that. So we're right back in the budget line where we should be for that month. We were kind of aware of that one though.
Okay.
Are there any other questions about the financials?
I have a question, I remember when I looked at your graph,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw that blue line. I said, wow, how do you do that?
Yeah, very carefully, is what I can say.
I was impressed, really.
Well, I mean, again, part of that is the one-time kind of influx of cash. So it's a good start, though. At the end of the day, it's still money we received. It's just not something we're going to see on a regular basis. But it's a great start to the year. It gives us a cushion to begin the year with, and it makes a big difference when you're starting ahead of the game versus starting in the hole.
Yeah.
I had a question about, there was a line item on there, caring for communities, it was $5,000. What is that?
That is for the resident advocacy that we have.
Okay.
Now, that wasn't for just 1 month. That was a multiple period bill. I think it was like 3 months worth of bills. They're really much smaller than that.
Right.
We had an issue where we didn't approve some invoices. They held some invoices,
Right,
and it took a
okay.
while. So yeah.
Okay.
Any other?
One other thing,
Yes, sir.
along with the White Sox game,
Mhm.
what training is that?
Once a year, we do an annual training where we basically go over all of the procedures, all the protocols. We're doing a little bit of an expansion this year versus last year. Last year was much smaller of a training where we really just kind of sat around and discussed things. We really wanted to go a step further this year and really involve the board, involve all of the staff, involve probably our attorney. We really haven't fleshed out everything that's going to be involved there, but it's a 2-day activity. So there'll be a full day training that Friday, and then the game will be on Saturday. And again, the event wasn't paid for with any federal funding. That's all non-federal funding from our Bridge project.
Okay.
What dates were those again? I saw that.
I believe it's April 2nd. I'm not exactly sure. I think Lauren can tell everybody what the exact date is.
April.
Or August.
August.
Yeah,
August
sorry,
2nd.
August 2nd, sorry.
That's August 2nd.
So it's gonna be a 2-day?
Because the game was actually on a Saturday, we didn't
Right.
want to close the office for
Right.
a game. We can actually do the training during the course of business. So we're going to have training on Friday
And
and
then-
then kind of an employee outing on
Okay.
Saturday.
And that the training is also a board.
Yes.
So training for the
We would like for you guys to, yes, we would like for you guys to be there as well.
Okay.
And there'll be a lot more about that probably in the next month or so once we finalize who all is going to be there, what all the presentations are going to be.
August 2nd is a Friday, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So it'll be August 1st will be
First,
the
whatever.
training day.
Is it morning, afternoon, or all day?
Probably, well, it's all day, but there'll probably be in and out areas where, for example, you guys might not need to be here all day unless you wanted to. There any other questions on these bills?
Not a question on the bills. I just, every time we see these, I see that there is a lot of local vendors on there. Would it be easy to try to figure out what percentage of, our spend gets spent in Aurora or Kane County, or
Yeah.
is that become like a big math problem to try to
No,
figure that
it's
out?
a matter of, we'd have to go through a couple reports, but it's not a very complicated thing. What I can say pretty confidently is that I would easily, of our, roughly $14 million budget, including landlords, we're probably spending anywhere from 8 to 10 million of that money here. I mean, obviously not all of it's spent here, but a good portion of that, I easily would say 80% of that is spent locally.
I'm just thinking of it like in terms of kind of marketing and PR, and we talk about like giving our success stories.
Mhm.
And I would have to kind of think through what would be a good way to show it. But if a big chunk of it's going to be to landlords, and then maybe see what the next chunk of it is with local, locally owned businesses or something like that. That would be interesting. Because every it looks like you guys do a pretty good job. We do a pretty good job of keeping the money local.
Well, we do spend, I mean, like I said, a lot of it's easier for us to utilize local contractors, local vendors, at least, if not local, regional guys. I mean,
Regional, right.
we don't try to bring in, we don't bring in too many people from Chicago, we don't bring in a lot of people from other states, really, and we try to keep, contractors and individuals with familiarity. I mean, this is a unique setting, and you really want people who understand how to work in that setting. And Carlos, Jimmy, David, who does a lot of our procurement, are phenomenal at really knowing the vendors, spreading the work out amongst the vendors. So now one person is getting all the work. You see a good spread of vendors who get involved here.
Maybe you could showcase that at a new opening.
Absolutely.
Open up.
And a lot of actually we are planning that grand opening. A lot of the vendors that are actually doing the work there are going to be invited to come back, just so we can kind of recognize them for some of the great work that they've been doing over there.
Yeah, I drove by on the weekends and there are people there.
Carlos has them going 24/7. He is driving them there. They probably worked the last 2 or 3 weekends straight, 7-day shifts out there. So he's got those guys working.
I was down there today and, you guys should take a trip down there, it looks pretty good. You're up.
We're about 3 weeks out. Any other questions?
Moving right along.
Alright. So we were mentioning the housing authority is about 85%, about 3 weeks away from really completing the office, doing our move, which none of us are looking forward to because it's going to require that we all pack up our desks and then have the movers come and then unpack our desks. But we are pretty much done. I mean, Chairman Champion and I were over there this morning. They're putting in floors now. It's all painted basically. We're waiting on furniture delivery, doors, carpets. We have one support beam that needs to go in the parking lot, which we believe we'll get permits for this week, if not this week, next week. So we are really getting down to those final couple items, which they seem big, but you'd be surprised how much can get done in a day when you've got 10 people out there working on it. So we're getting very close to that. We are going to have a grand opening once we're all moved over there. Probably, we're thinking January 1st, sometime around that 4th of July weekend. We'll have or what else?
January.
I've been doing it all day.
I've been a week behind.
Yeah, we'll do it in July. We're not gonna do it in January. But we will have, a grand opening. We're gonna, and it's not just gonna be about the office. Obviously, that'll be the kind of star of the show. But there's a lot of things we've been doing that we really want to roll out. There are a lot of new partnerships. There are a lot of just organizational changes. We've got a new logo to show off. A new website we'll have up and ready by that time. We've got tons of partnerships to roll out. One of the big things we're in talks to do now is work with the Fox Valley Credit Union to offer banking services to all of our residents. That credit union specializes in low-income individuals and banking services. So that's a perfect fit for our population and for their services. So it helps us help our residents to stop get into the habit of using traditional banking services, but it also helps a 77-year-old Aurora bank to have access to new clientele. So it's kind of a win-win if we were able to put that together. One of the things on the table is we all know we do have sort of a mandate to take some fair housing training. I know some of you have already agreed to do the training on the 11th, but for anybody who didn't know, there's a nail rod training on June 11th. There are other trainings you can take if you're not able to do that one. It is an all-day training. It runs from 9 to 4. You can do it either here. We can set it up in the boardroom on the TV here, or you can also do it from your own computers at your own leisure on that day. If you're in your office and want to do it, or at your home, you can also take the training that way as well. That is available. There, like I said, there are many others. If you can't do this one or rather wait, there are plenty more to do throughout the year.
So that's June 11th?
Yes.
And just curious, did anything that I took in Vegas count towards this?
Let me find out on that. I will find out on that. You might sneak by on that. We'll see. Yeah, I will find out on that. Are there any questions for me? No, Maria?
First up top, you see the numbers for our public housing waiting list. Not a lot of movement after it closed down. We're still over 1,000. You see the ready to house pool numbers as well. notices served as well as those referred to the attorneys. We have a total of 5 evictions for the month. 2 of those at Maple Terrace, 1 Centennial, 1 Eastwood, and 1 Southwind. And the numbers for the Section 8 waiting list. As far as the Ross program and activities, you'll see some of the activities that have been going on at the different sites. Centennial House, we've had food truck, we have local food pantries, stops that have been made. Riverworks still involved very much so over at Eastwood with some of the programming with the moms, children events and all of that. And over at Southwind, you'll see quite a few other churches and groups involved there as well.
Oh, sorry, are there any questions?
Can I go back to yours real
Sure,
quick?
yeah.
The interns,
Mhm.
internship program?
I apologize, yes.
Yeah, what's, actually, had spent Memorial Day with, Holloway.
Ah, so yeah, okay.
So she, I didn't know, that she's in charge of
Mhm,
that?
yes.
Okay, and so where is, do we have people?
Yes, we do. Yes, we actually met this morning with Ms. Holloway, and she met with the executive staff here just to kind of give everybody a feel for how the program's going to work, what our roles are going to be. We have 4 confirmed interns and a 5th potential. They're trying to work out a few items. We have interns from all over. Actually, I was kind of surprised by the depth of the pool. We have interns from the University of Illinois, from DePaul. We even have an intern from Kansas State University. So. Architecture degrees, we have psychology degrees, we have urban planning and security degrees. So it's a very, very, I think, equal, wide-ranging set of educational experiences. And I think we've got a very good program designed. It's a roughly 9-week program. They're going to rotate throughout our departments here. They'll be in from June 11th? I don't know what they do. 19th, okay. Or June 9th, I'm sorry, June 9th to August, the end of August, I think August 15th. So it's a good summer program. I think we are going to have a good experience with this.
And then, again, I see that we have another person that rented in the private market from here. And then every time I see that, I just keep thinking that, we have talked in the past about, trying to maybe highlight some of those people that, and I was at this opening for Emmanuel House.
Mhm.
They have a program in LaSalle, and they did this amazing video about this family that, were refugees. They came over and went through that program, and then they just bought a house a couple weeks ago. And they put together a great video of that. It was 2 or 3 minutes
Mhm.
long. And I think Jimmy Allen's marketing group, it's called Bureau of Gravity, or I don't know exactly, but they did it. And so when I saw that, I just thought that would be a great way to highlight maybe a success story that we've had.
Absolutely, and I think.
Or someone that maybe they own a house now, or maybe they're just doing it all.
Oh, absolutely. One of the items you'll see in the list of bills is a resident who was in our FSS program who got a very large payout. It was roughly $21,000. This is for successful completion of the FSS program. Essentially, any increases that would have occurred in their rent get kind of put into an escrow, into a savings account on their behalf, so long as they meet certain goals and they're able to draw that money out at the end of the program. They can use that money obviously for home ownership, for a large number of purposes. But so we do know those success stories we have, and I think the grand opening will be, we'll have hopefully a lot of people at the grand opening. It'll be a good opportunity to showcase some of those success stories. Our new website is going to have a lot of additional capabilities that our current one doesn't have, but we can also showcase more front and center families that have had successes with the agency.
As you get into doing that, I think that the video is a good thing, because what people are finding now is that they put 2-minute videos, 3-minute videos on their website. People will view them, and instead of reading this information about it. So I mean, it would be worthwhile that they end up being somewhat pricey to do, but you can do them, you know, say we wanna do one a month for
Mhm.
6 months, and all of a sudden you could, at the end of the year, you could have a nice little showcase of stuff that, and you could do them on different topics too.
Absolutely, absolutely. We will dig more into that. Are there any other questions for Maria? Sue, please.
For the month of April, for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, we had 79 recertifications in progress, completed 58 annual reexaminations, processed 56 interim rent adjustments. We reissued 4 vouchers, issued 4 vouchers for families porting in and from another housing authority. We transferred 2 families out to other housing authorities. We had 7 move-ins, which were families moving in or tenants here moving around. 4 initial move-in inspections, 44 annual inspections, 36 re-inspections, 2 special inspections, which were 24-hour fail for carbon monoxide violations. We had 10 terminations, and I didn't list what those all were. There were some that were voluntarily ended, went off the program because they were over income. A couple transferred out and were absorbed by other housing authorities. A couple were terminations for family obligation violations. We had 0 repays signed and 1 unit abated. And that completed April.
Are there any questions?
The 815, is that, that's a number that we set up and budget for the year? I see that's one in the report, there's 893 available, and then
Yeah.
how do we determine that's 815 and not?
Well, for us, it's
820?
financial. That's how we started out probably about the time when I got here, we were leasing almost all 893, but as a result, every month we were burning through reserves and we were actually in a loss in that program. What we found is kind of equilibrium is between 810 and 820 or so leased units based on the funding, which the funding is fairly steady at about $630,000 to $650,000. As long as we're getting that somewhere in that 815 to 830 range is about right for us. That's where we keep that break even or just above or below that number. And the other thing too, we'll start to see some increase in that number when we started leasing the vouchers, the project-based voucher with the Brentsville project. So you'll see some increase in that number, but we're also planning that to work in conjunction with our equilibrium kind of budgeting there as well. Those units will come, they don't come on all online at the same time, they come one here, 2 there. So the idea is that once we found equilibrium, now we know, okay, they've got 2 ready, we got 2 people who come off for terminations for whatever reason, they fill in those spots. So it stays kind of in that range, hopefully. Hopefully HUD will give us more money though, we can obviously lease more vouchers, which would be good, so.
So just to what you just said right there, so when our additional scattered sites come on,
Mhm.
will that number increase, or will that number still stay around the same, and it'll ultimately be a?
It'll stay roughly the same. So this is kind of the 815, let's say, is equilibrium. That's the point at which we make $33,000 a month in that program. So now every termination would be replaced by, or at that time, any vacancies, termination would be replaced by a project-based voucher unit, typically. There are maybe times, don't get me wrong, where we do end up pushing up some, and that's what the reserves are for. We can kind of navigate those waters as we get there.
I guess I got all the part about how you explained how we got to 815, and that's where the budget is.
Mm-hmm.
I followed, but I didn't understand if we're adding in these additional scattered sites, they're not truly additions then, they just.
No.
Because
They're-
each month
yeah.
you lose some.
Right, yeah.
This month we lost 10, so we're gonna, by issuing those project-based, that'll bring that number back up to the 815. You wanna keep, you never wanna go too far below your number, or then HUD will start
Yeah.
pulling your money in.
I guess I'm just, but we're adding scattered sites, but we're really not adding.
Yeah, if you're from that point of, yes, we're not theoretically adding new vouchers to the street, no. We couldn't afford really to do that. What we will be doing though is almost guaranteeing that those units will be leased, whereas in any given month right now, like Sue was saying, we would lose 10. We're not gonna lose any of those 40. They're gonna stay leased for every, for the time period that they need to be for over 15 years. But no, if from a point of view, are we adding more vouchers to the street? Theoretically, no. We are basically changing who the landlord is, so to speak.
Okay, I follow.
Are there any other questions for Sue? No? Jimmy?
Oh, you guys been working real hard on, REACT. REACT is coming up, they actually moved it back basically 2nd and 3rd of July. The guys, have been out, done pretty much all the pre-inspections, so now we're basically, actually doing the work and stuff right now. Guys have made tremendous progress. We're actually just about done with all our family sites, and we're gonna hit the scattered sites, so we got a good month in. And we're also utilizing a lot of our contractors for a lot of the outside work, the gutter stuff that, they're better equipped with. Carlos is coordinating that, which is working real well. In the meantime, also, the guys are doing extremely well with keeping up with work orders, emergencies, and just the vacancies itself. We are still able to assist residents, like in Maple Terrace, with the gardening and stuff. We build boxes and rototill, and on the weekends, lots of times, some of the sites have things going on, so we make sure that there's tables and chairs all ready for them to use on the weekends. The fire units over on Maple Terrace on the 2nd floor are just pretty much done. I think there's just a little fine tuning, and the city's got to inspect them, so they're pretty much, by next month, we should be able to have them out released. Saturday, a couple Saturdays ago, we did hire staff to go out and paint the units over at Jericho, paint them the colors of choice and stuff like that, just to keep up with scheduling so we don't fall behind. We also had some floors stripped and waxed over at community center over Eastwood for the agencies and stuff like that, and did some painting stuff to just spruce up the area. We had one of our scattered sites, we did have to do a roof replacement. It was a total tear off plywood and shingles. And we are seeking bids for asbestos for our modernization units. We did 7 units. We had our elevator inspected over at Centennial House, and myself and Emmett Hanley, we attended City of Aurora Anderson Pest Control. It was basically about roaches and bed bugs, and the best way to approach it, they say, just get a bigger shoe. So.
That's true.
Are there any questions for Jimmy? If none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Resolution number 14, approving the AHA CMAP submission. Can you read that, please?
Whereas the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development requires that the Aurora Housing Authority submit a Section 8 Management Assessment Program certification for each fiscal year, and whereas the CMAP certification has been completed based on information from April 1st, 2013 through March 31st, 2014, and Keith Gregory, Executive Director of the Housing Authority, has reviewed and concurs with the information provided for the CMAP certification, and whereas a resolution by the Board of Commissioners is required to approve the CMAP certification before it may be submitted to HUD. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Aurora Housing Authority approve the CMAP certification for submittal to HUD by May 30th, 2014, and that the chairperson of the Housing Authority execute the CMAP certification form in compliance with HUD requirements.
Roll call.
We need a motion.
So moved.
Well, I'm sorry, do we have any discussion? Sorry.
Second.
Did you second?
Yes.
Just, and how, like the dollars that we pay per unit size?
The fair market value?
Yeah, did those change from last year?
Just from what we approved at the beginning, if that's the same, those
Okay.
numbers are the same.
That's okay.
We do have a motion and a second. Can
Yep.
we call roll?
Roll call.
Henry Champion,
Yay.
Bill Powell,
Yes.
Matty Koval, Ray Cruz,
Yes.
Dave Richard,
Yes.
Scott Morris.
Yes.
So the
date is corrected on the,
Yes, sorry about that. It said April, we changed the resolution, that's in May on the one that's going around.
Resolution 1409, approval of disposition of 4 units.
Just so the board is clear on, let me just kind of go over what happened here. We have a number of units that have been offline for a considerable amount of time. Some, we're talking about Jimmy was talking about the asbestos abatement units. Was it 4 units? 5 units that have been offline for on average about 500 days. So these have been offline for over a year, not generating any revenue, not housing anybody. Those units we felt were repairable. So we're going in, we're gonna do the asbestos abatement. We're actually gonna strip the units down and do tier 3 upgrades at these units. These 4 units are not, in our opinion, repairable. So we've determined that it's in our best interest to go ahead and sell those units. They're essentially not up to code with the city right now. The cost to bring them up to code with the city would be much more than it's really worth to us to, we could use that money to help far more families than it would be worth to try to fix these units up. So we did receive HUD approval to sell the units off at their fair market value. To be clear, 2 of the units, the one on Kendall Street and the one on Dayward Court, are single-family homes. One has foundation issues, the other has a lot of mold and water damage inside the unit. The units on 843 and 45 Bowditch is actually a duplex, which is not in bad condition. We have interest from the Association for Individual Development, AID, to take that unit off our hands. We're working with HUD to try and figure out a way to do kind of an in-kind transfer or some other option with that unit to ensure that, because they're going to actually it'll still be an affordable housing unit. So but we are of the belief that we can actually do kind of a lease arrangement with them so that their families can live in that unit and be provided supportive services. You'll see a lot of actually work. We're becoming good friends with AID, so you'll hear their name a lot going forward. But so we're working on an opportunity where they can still utilize that unit at what would appear to be maybe a below market cost, but given the services that they're going to provide and its continued affordable housing use, we're working with HUD hopefully to be able to arrange that. If not, just as the other units, it will go up for sale at a fair market. The highest bidder effectively gets that unit. But that is just so everybody's clear what you're approving. Are there any questions? No, we have a motion.
Motion.
I'll make a motion we approve resolution 1409.
Second.
Roll call.
Henry Champion,
Yay.
Bill Powell,
Yes.
Matty Cole,
Yes.
Ray Cruz,
yes,
Dave Richard,
Yes.
Scott Ward.
Yes.
Yes. Resolution 1410, approval of agreements with HUD.
Oh, Pete, at this point, we don't need to go to executive session to discuss this any further, do we?
You don't need one if you want to discuss it in executive session, you can.
Does anybody have a desire to do that before we discuss this? I was just gonna make the obvious points of what the agreement is, but does anybody have a reason or desire to go to executive session before we do so?
Okay.
If not, okay. Just so we're clear, these are the settlement agreements between the Aurora Housing Authority and the parties that entered into litigation with us. They are pretty straightforward. We all already spoke about those terms in executive sessions prior. So unless there are any questions, I will look for a motion.
So moved.
Roll call.
Henry Champion,
Yes.
Bill Powell,
Yes.
Matty Cole,
yes.
Ray Cruz,
I'm sorry, I misheard what you said, Keith, there was some background noise. Can you say that again?
This resolution is basically in regards to the agreements that we've discussed in executive session before. Nothing has changed on those agreements. I wasn't aware if anybody wanted to discuss in executive session anything about these prior to a vote at this point.
Are you talking about the Hayes
Yes.
Correction and Hope Agreement?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask some questions on it?
Absolutely. Would you like to do that in open session or executive?
Why don't we
It
stay in
doesn't matter to
open,
me
and
either
if
way.
we need to go into executive, just let us know. Or if we,
Okay.
You don't need to.
I mean,
Anytime.
Yeah.
I I mean, they're fairly straightforward. but I think
Is
we
our
should all-
attorney in the room, by the way?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll ask our attorney what we should do.
We're okay.
We're recommending approval.
Okay, so, he does recommend approval. We're open to discuss it in open section. I think everybody else is okay with that.
Is the attorney recommending approval of all three of these?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, my question was, and it's just a point of clarification for me more than anything, that the agency and HUD can, and correct me if I'm wrong in my interpretation, cannot pay out these kind of dollars.
The funds involved are relatively minor and they're being paid 100% by insurance.
Say that one more time?
The funds involved are relatively minor, they're just some costs, and it's being paid 100% by insurance.
Okay, so it's not coming from our agency, it's not coming from HUD, because I thought that,
That's
based on
correct.
what Keith said, you could not do that.
Yeah, it's not your money.
And then my second question is does this open us up for everybody who was unhappy with what happened a long time ago to come looking for money?
No, we covered that with HUD.
Okay. And then what are the total amounts? Here, it's tough to read all of them so we've got, if I'm looking at them here and I'm trying to read three documents on the internet real quick.
The total amounts for all three is less than 20,000.
What did we agree on before when we went into negotiations?
It was in excess of that amount.
I'm sorry, I missed that?
It was in excess of that amount, but we were able to resolve it for less.
Okay. And based on our attorney's opinion, based on if we go into litigation and fight this thing, it will be dramatically more.
Significantly.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure that we were covering our bases and doing the right thing for the agency, doing the right thing for the residents that were part of our clients in the past.
We looked
I
at
have
it
no further
as,
questions.
we looked at it
I have
as
no further.
as a win-win because you're really not doing anything here that you weren't gonna do anyway.
Okay. All right, I have no further questions.
Do we have your, yes or no vote on that one?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Dave Richard,
Yes.
Scott Boris.
Yes.
Resolution 1411, approval of intergovernmental agreement between the Aurora Housing Authority and the DuPage Housing Authority.
We do this pretty much every year. We have a standing agreement with the DuPage Housing Authority to provide landlords who live in DuPage County kind of an incentive to do Section 8 housing. So the DuPage County Housing Authority and the county have offered a tax abatement. In order for us to offer that to the landlords in the city of Aurora who are in DuPage County, we actually have to sign this intergovernmental agreement. So that's really what this is all about, just ensuring that our landlords have continued access to that tax abatement as an incentive to be involved in our program. Are there any questions? Do we have a motion?
Have a motion?
A motion, we approve 14-11.
Second.
Roll call.
Henry Champion,
Yay.
Bill Powell,
Yes.
Matty Fogel, Ray Cruz,
Yes.
Dave Richard,
Yes.
Scott Boris.
Yes.
Any redevelopment?
At this point, it's, things are moving forward all, kind of quiet on this part. We'll be hearing a little more a little bit later as we start to sign off, do some loan closings. When we start getting the funds in, we'll have to do some closings, but nothing that at this point would come before the board.
June 11th. Can I plan on doing that here?
Sure.
I think if I do it at work that'll, not gonna work out very well for me.
And let me know, because I will try to come here if I need to.
Okay. And I'll find out about
I'd
that.
like to go into executive session.
Need a, motion?
We need we got a,
Yes,
Keith,
yes,
can I have a point of clarification on something?
sure.
Have we looked at plans on what you're planning on doing with the building that we're currently in, after we move into the new facilities?
We have plans, actually. We're working with AID. They're going to lease some of the space here and provide not only services to our residents, but other residents in the community from this location.
And when are we gonna see the details on that?
I can have them to the board next week.
Awesome, thank you.
Uh-huh.
and just, when you make a motion to go into executive, you just
Yes,
have
to
to let us
state why.
know.
What?
You have to state a reason for the record.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready, sir.
I make the motion. We have a grievance at hand, personal issue, so I would like to make a motion that we go into a closed executive session.
Second. Call roll.
Henry Champion,
Yes?
Bill Powell,
Yes.
Maddie Koval,
Yes.
Ray Cruz,
Yes.
Dave Richard,
Yes.
Scott Ward.
Yes.
Camera on.
Hey, Keith, that's my short list of